All right, I'm in, Coach.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Smack Talk Live. I am Coach Lone Wolf. And Lone Wolf, really, we're, we're going to recap the sports for the week.
Yeah,
uh,
we've got sports to talk about.
yeah. So, um, and I know people are listening are probably thinking, well, there's still all this stuff going on with college football schedules and stuff. We may touch on that a little bit, but I think it's really important to just highlight the actual sports that are going on instead of the way they're being impacted. So, we'll go kind of an hour, and I'm going to preface our popular choice, the low to the most popular in our opinion. We'll start with the PGA. We have the PGA Championship right now going on, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Can Tiger win any more majors? And he struggled today, but he's still in it. He's um, 3 strokes back, 2 under. So, uh, like we had talked about before, he still can pull it out now and then.
Right.
I don't know if
He's
he's
right in there. I mean, I think he's tied for 21st, so it's not like he's you know out of the mix or anything like that. This is still very very doable considering.
well, and considering he had missed a couple of fairways and
Yeah.
he wasn't hitting the ball well early in his round, and this is the first major championship that he's hit under 70 in the opening round.
Mm-hmm.
And I read it before in a couple of years. So, you know, it's a step in the right direction for him.
Yeah.
I'll say that. Now, you got some other good players there. Jason Day isn't any slouch when it comes
No, not at
to
all.
golfing.
No.
But 3 strokes is nothing. Um,
Right.
one bad hole by a couple of people, and you hit a
Yeah.
birdie here and there, and you're right there. So that's it. I think it's going to be interesting to watch to see how this all plays out. Um, you know, we talk about the impact of fans, no fans. Golf is one sport that isn't fan driven.
No.
If there's fans at the course or not, it's not really fan driven. It's
No, I mean
sponsor
you
driven.
don't feed off of the crowd most of the time, and I guess I'm not, I'm a professional golfer, so maybe some of those guys would differ in saying that they do, but to me, it doesn't rise and fall in momentum like a basketball game where you have the crowd there, you really feed off the energy of the crowd one way or the other. Whereas in golf, it doesn't feel that way to me. You're pretty much in your own head most of the time concentrating on what you need to do. So I think they can get by without fans better than some of the other sports can.
Yeah. So that's the PGA. Moving next, we are going to quick skip over to Major League Baseball, which we may spend some time talking about this.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the only
you
thing I
know,
would say before we jump to baseball about golf is what I think you do see, and Tiger's going to have maybe just a few more hurrahs, so to speak, in on tour. I feel like we talked about he can do it, but what you do see at the top of the leaderboard are a lot of guys who they're the new crop. They're the new group of guys that have been on the leaderboard and winning tournaments, but they're going to be more of the mainstay of what you do see, like Day, like you just mentioned. but there's a lot of guys, there's a lot of names up there that you recognize, like Kepka. Those guys are going to be the new group that have been winning games and winning tournaments. Um, I think once Tiger goes on, once he's done, kind of in his maybe last chance here, these last couple tournaments that he might play, and he may still keep going, but I don't think he's got the stamina to do it for years and years.
No.
It's not going to be like that. You'll see these guys and these names, and golf is going to have to try to market some of those guys as their brand.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. You're going to see Tiger probably play, I'd say, a half a dozen tournaments a year.
Yeah.
He'll play a couple, probably a tournament, one or two before each major, and that's about it. Right. He's not going to be a full-time player. I think his strict goal is to try to get that major victory record at this point. Can he do it? He could, but Father Time is not on his side. Let's put it that way.
Right,
as you get younger players coming out and playing, they're going to hit the ball farther. They're going to be more accurate. Just like Tiger was. I mean, when Tiger came out, he was, obviously the youngest player on the PGA, but he just out hit everybody because, I think he was like one of the first professional golfers that actually like worked out. And that, I'm not calling them lazy, but like, trained, like physically trained with,
trained hard,
in a weightlifting program to get his body stronger. And I think that kind of led this next wave. You look at these guys. I remember watching a couple of tournaments here and there growing up, and you had, these middle-aged, overweight guys, sort of like myself, walking around a golf course, and just because they could be accurate, and hit the ball, they'd make money. Well, now you look at them, and these guys look like they could be being an athlete in any sport. So the game has changed in that way. But yeah, like you said, it'll be interesting to see how long Tiger can keep chasing the major tournaments. He's our age, and
right, exactly, yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, when I wake up some days, I'm like, man, I just want to go back to bed. So we'll see on that. So switching over to
baseball. Yep.
Baseball. And there's not been, last week we talked about, there's the kind of the COVID outbreak, and it kind of put the season in the danger zone, I'll say.
Yeah, definitely.
And you really haven't heard much about that this week. So that tells me that those are isolated pockets and not a widespread, thing throughout the entire league.
Which is good for them.
Right. And I think that's what everybody immediately thought. Oh, my Lord, the entire league's going to be infected, and it's just going to be done.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're still playing. It's not done. But I was in, I kind of kept track of the scoreboard here and there. But when I looked at the standings earlier today, there are some shockers.
And I was going to ask you that. This is what I wanted to see, and I have my own, but who do you think is the most surprising as winning, and then who do you think is the most surprising as having like a losing record?
I think and it's really hard to say because you got some teams, like the Twins have played 13 games already. They're almost a third of the way done. But then you have other teams that have 6.
Right, like the Marlins only have 6 games in, right? Yeah.
Right.
Or St. Louis, I think, had 5.
Yeah, St. Louis only has 5 games.
Yeah.
So you can't really judge them. One of the biggest surprises, there's 2 I have.
Mm-hmm.
The White Sox at 7-5.
Yeah.
And then also, I know it's only 6 games, but the Marlins are 5-1.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, can they keep it up? I doubt it, but give them props that they're
sure.
5-1. They're top of the division. And when we went through our preview, we said they're
Yeah,
not
I mean,
basically not even a team. Don't
right. I
even
mean, there's four
consider that.
teams that we had. We disagreed on the teams in the playoffs from that division, and the Marlins were not one of them.
Right, exactly. So I am a little shocked with the Cubs of how good they are.
Yeah, 10 and
I
2.
mean,
Yeah,
10-2 is impressive.
right,
Um, the Brewers are sitting at 4-5. They're winning tonight.
right.
They're a series behind because basically their entire series with the Cardinals got washed out.
Yeah,
So they're still in it. Arizona surprises me at only being 4-8.
yeah.
Um,
Well, and I was gonna say, I mean, my team that's most surprising as far as being where they are right now are the other Rockies at 9 and 3. Like, we
yeah,
talked about that division that I didn't really think that they would compete for it over some of the other teams in that division. Not that they were horrible. I mean, they're not horrible, but to be 9 and 3 right now surprised me.
well, and that was going to be the next team that I said that's kind of
Yeah,
shocking. It's the Rockies. But to be honest, kind of like it because I'm not a
yeah,
big fan of the Dodgers. So,
right.
um,
Well, and it pushes
so
them, and you still have other teams there like Arizona. We talked about that may still be good yet, so maybe that division will be more interesting than we thought.
right. So as for standings, that's kind of where we are with baseball. When you look at the score, like tonight's scores, um, and again, we're actually look at the baseball, and it's just like it kind of was. It's just a shorter season. They aren't doing like the NBA does, where they're basically playing all day long, and you get scores throughout the day. So like right now, Diamondbacks are losing again, bottom of the ninth.
Right,
Marlins are winning again.
right.
Brewers are winning. Pirates beat the Twins. Rockies beat the Giants today.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
the
when you
Royals
look
and the Royals shelled the Cubs. I mean, they just destroyed the Cubs today.
right, and that's the thing. So it's like I don't know. I know the Cubs played the Brewers. You know, kind of just looking at the whole overall. Well, I'm trying to be objective on this because I
Yeah,
don't want
yeah,
to sound biased to the Brewers. The Brewers beat the Cubs 2 out of 3 games to open the
right,
season. The next Since then, the Cubs have played the Reds, the Pirates, and the Royals.
right. So they're 10 and 2 against horrible teams. Yeah,
Right. We basically just counted out the Pirates and the Royals right away. We said the
right.
Reds could be a playoff contender. Even though
Potentially, yeah,
a lot of people said that they could be a World Series contender. They're sitting at 5-8. I don't see them doing
yeah,
much. So it's really hard to say that 10-2 record is, now 10-3
right.
is something that is really a strong, record.
And
Again,
so I wonder about that from a scheduling standpoint. I mean, normally over the course of a baseball season, that kind of stuff balances out. But and I don't know what the Cubs schedule is going to end up, being. I didn't look at their schedule for all the 60 games that they're supposed to play. But what if they end up playing a lot of teams like that throughout their schedule, where it maybe gives them a bit more of an advantage? I don't know. I mean, I just feel like maybe that's something that plays out over the course of a season for certain
well,
teams because
it,
they
it,
play within their division.
and that's a good way to look at it because it's all regional. It's not
Mm-hmm.
it's not like they're playing just divisional teams. So
Oh,
they're
yeah,
Their next series is supposed to be the Cardinals, which will probably be postponed. Then they play Cleveland, Milwaukee again, St. Louis again, the White Sox, the Tigers, the Reds, the Pirates, Cardinals again, Reds again, Milwaukee. So, you got a lot of games with Pittsburgh in there and, some Cleveland games. But yeah, I think it'll balance itself out because, I mean, they have a lot of games versus the Brewers and the Cardinals, which I think those are the games that are going to determine,
A
how
lot
good
about
you
what
are.
happens in that division, yeah, and how
You
good you
know,
really are, yeah.
so we'll see there. You look at the other divisions, not too many surprises. The Yankees are on top. The Twins are on top.
Right, the A's are, yeah.
But you look at the AL Central. The Twins, the White Sox, and the Indians are all above 500.
Right.
The Tigers are 500. So, like we're talking about just before with the Cubs, they play a lot of those teams. It's not a guarantee that those are going to be wins for the Cubs.
No, not at all.
So again, that'll be interesting, with how this all plays out. And that's why I think the baseball's in a good position if they can finish this season out to really get intrigue from new fans.
Right.
Because there's going to be interest in how good these teams that make the postseason are, with only playing, regionally their teams. So,
yeah.
So we'll see about that. Other than that, not a ton of news. Coming out of
Outside of
as
the
for
initial
players.
COVID scare with them, that was the big thing, and now they've kind of gotten it a little bit under control in terms of what's going on. So
Yeah, well, it's either they got it under control or they're just not. They're ignoring it.
That could be
One
too.
of the two things.
I mean, the baseball itself has said they were going to step up their protocols. So I guess we'll find out how under control it is, or if you start seeing more teams with outbreaks. So,
but here's the thing: why are you even in a situation where you have to step up your protocols? Shouldn't those have all been in place already?
Right.
What's coming. You know what you're dealing with.
That's the problem with baseball, though. That's what we talked about before, and this is a point I wanted to make. And I don't care if you're a fan of baseball, and I don't care if you're listening right now and you don't like it. But this is Smack Talk, and we were just going to tell our stories no matter what. So baseball, to me, did this whole thing, and they just kind of half did it. They argued for so long about whether they were going to have a season and what about the money and blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, okay, now we're going to have a season. It's going to be this. But, they didn't really go into it with a great plan. So now you're seeing the result of that. And that's the difference between baseball and some of the other sports where I get it. You can't dome yourself off and play, in a bubble like the NBA is doing it. But the NBA had a plan for a long time on how they were going to do this. Baseball didn't, and now they're seeing the effects of not having that plan. So they just didn't prepare. They didn't prepare the right way.
Right. So, and that's the thing that, for a long time, it was like, it didn't look like they were going to have a season. Then all of a sudden they just threw this thing together. Yeah. And to be honest, though, you said they couldn't do the hub like NBA did. I think they would have an easier time doing it. Because you can find facilities that have multiple fields in a general area and play a bunch of games at the same time.
You could, yeah. I guess I wasn't thinking about it that way. I was thinking like, an indoor, everybody goes to the bubble. But yeah, you could have that where you have multiple fields and you could have game after game or
and then you just have a hub city where the players stay at.
Sure.
And I think that's a problem with, we talked about this last week, with that little outbreak, is that you don't know where the players are going after the games.
Right.
Because if the outbreak was occurring inside the stadiums, teams would be getting wiped out,
Yeah.
and it's not.
Yeah.
So, so it's neither here nor there. It's already
It's already done,
again
right? But
again
yeah,
they
if they planned more, maybe they could have had something like that in place,
yeah they
in advance of this.
yeah they whiffed on this big time. And it's just, unfortunately, the baseball's never really seemed to have had a commissioner that kind of knows what he's doing. I mean, everybody bashes Bud Selig, but I mean, he was at least, made some type of common sense decisions on things.
Right. Or made
You can
people
tell,
mad, which means
right,
he must be doing something right at some point.
right. They,
Yeah.
unlike, wait until the last minute and then trying to pull something off. So, but with that said, because we're getting off topic here,
Yep. We'll move on. We'll move on from baseball and we'll go to a different sport.
we're going to go to the NBA. So, the Bucks clinched the top spot today by
Yep.
beating the Heat. Um, you know, they've been kind of average since
Yeah.
the restart. So seeing them put up 130 was kind of nice to see. And I don't, and I'm not sure what the reasoning, that they're kind of going struggling with, or if they're just trying to, get kind of back into some type of chemistry, or what the deal is.
Yeah.
But they need to start putting it together here.
Right.
Because before you know it, your 20 games is going to be done, and it's going to be the playoffs. And
Yeah.
if you're not clicking when the playoffs start, you are now,
You're done.
looking
I
at
mean,
possibly an upset.
right. And that's the thing. I know what you mean. Like right now, we kind of thought Milwaukee might come out of the gate firing because that's what
Yeah.
they did at the beginning of the season. Um, and it felt like maybe, hey, this is the rejuvenated season, but they've kind of felt, yeah, they beat the Celtics in that first game, and it just seems like they've been kind of not lukewarm, but just not quite there. I agree. And that isn't going to cut it in this NBA postseason at all. They're going to have to turn it up to a new level, and maybe they are. I don't know. Maybe that's like, once they get there, maybe they realize that. I'm not sure, but obviously we're both fans, so we both like to see them succeed. But at the same time, I think most people would probably say they're one of the best teams in the NBA. So you want to see the better teams make it. I don't know. Most people probably don't like seeing a low seed knockout the number one seed in the NBA. I mean, I know people like upsets in like college basketball, but I don't see that necessarily unless you're a fan of that team. In the NBA. So
Right. And that's the thing. The way the NBA kind of saves its ratings and sponsorship money is having, the Bucks and the like the Lakers, Clippers, and those teams in those conference final
right,
series. If you get, and again, it's nothing against these teams, but the Pacers and Sixers, you're going to have those areas you tune in and watch, but you're going to lose the national. You can say what you want about the Bucks, being a small market team. Giannis is a global figure.
oh yeah, I mean
He,
he absolutely is.
he's not like Simmons from the Sixers, who,
Right.
okay, he's another basketball player.
I'm guessing there aren't as many people in Europe that know who Simmons is as
Right.
opposed to Giannis.
And that's the thing. And the NBA is all about
I mean, let's just
expanding.
be honest.
Yeah, the NBA is all about expanding their brand
Right.
globally, and having Giannis, deep into the playoffs and possibly win a championship would be huge for the
Yeah.
NBA popularity um, as they move through.
Right.
Um,
I mean,
so
you look at it, and if the matchup we predicted with the Bucks and the Lakers takes place, it's one of those, to me, perfect scripts for the NBA because you
mhm,
have the up and coming rising star versus the dominant star in the NBA over the last decade plus in LeBron, and it's like that's what you want if you're the NBA because that's the perfect, absolutely the perfect story. No matter who wins, you can play it either way. Like
right,
LeBron gets another championship. Is he the greatest of all time? Giannis gets a championship, the new rising star, the Patrick Mahomes of the NBA, or whatever you want to call it. Just,
right.
there's, well, you know what I mean? There's that feel to it, so it's like, okay, is he, well, I mean, maybe he's not that dominant. I don't know if you want to compare, but I'm just saying that kind of feel. So either way, you can play the story, and that's really what the NBA would want. I
Well,
think that's what
and
most
that's
people would want.
if you have the Bucks Lakers and the Bucks would win the title,
Right.
it's gonna be I think that would guarantee Giannis staying in Milwaukee
Right. Yeah. Yep.
because he's like, we can win here. I don't need to go somewhere
Yep.
else to win. We can win
Right.
here, and it would almost be kind of like, I think, a passing of the torch because let's be honest, LeBron probably has 3, maybe 4 seasons left.
Yeah.
He can say can play all he wants. Your body can only go so far.
Right.
And I think the Lakers have set themselves up for that, and the way they're hopefully doing their contracts, and this is gonna sound. There's probably gonna be some Pelican fans that are, oh my God, how can you say that after what they just did with Davis? I'll tell you right now, the Lakers are looking at this, and if the Bucks don't win and Giannis is open to leaving Milwaukee, they'll make
Yeah.
a push for Giannis, and they'll just pay the penalties on their salary cap, whatever.
Yeah.
They'll
They
do
would
whatever
do
they have to
whatever.
do.
Yep.
Because all of a sudden you put Giannis, LeBron, and Davis on the same court, just hand them
Yeah.
the trophy. That you
Yeah. I
you
mean,
can't
yeah.
beat that.
Yeah. Right.
But again, looking at it all down the road, I think the Lakers understand that it's a good possibility either way Giannis stays in Milwaukee. Everybody's going to sit here and speculate this and that. No one wants to be honest. And it's like he likes Milwaukee. He has good rapport with the organization. He's probably going to stay there. I think they're setting themselves up for Zion when
Yeah.
Zion's ready, and they're going to make a push for Zion. And yes, I know it took Davis from the Pelicans, but guess what? Sorry, you aren't LA. You
Right.
Zion wanted to go to LA.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
some players, depending on who the player is, want to play in that environment.
right.
I mean, LeBron played in Cleveland for a long time because it was a hometown thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was there, he did it, but guess what? LeBron left, went into Miami, and he did it deliberately because he knew he'd be
Yep.
able to win some championships there. Yes, he came back, city of Cleveland, because he loves you. That's where he's from, is Ohio. But now he plays for another big market, team because
Right.
that's what he wanted to do. I mean, players do that in the NBA. That's just kind of how it is now. I get that the Golden State Warriors built something in a smaller market. But for the most part, you get a lot of guys who want to play in a big market, and they're going to leave and they're going to do that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I agree. You're right. In some cases, though, they may not, depending on what the organization itself has built. And I feel like everybody wants to plot out where Giannis is going to leave to, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are not considering the fact that sometimes guys want to stay because look, they're successful.
Right.
You know, San
Right.
Antonio was very successful for a long time based on that model in today's NBA
Yes.
for quite a while until recently.
Yeah. Yeah, Tim Duncan had multiple opportunities to leave if he wanted to, and he could have went to New York, LA, and made a boatload of money, but that wasn't what drove him. It was winning. It was so
And it was working. It was working, and they were
right.
winning. Yeah.
So, anything surprising in the NBA from what you can see?
I would say the only thing maybe a little surprising is that to me it looks like the Suns have been kind of making a push lately, and they may compete for something. I'm a little surprised at maybe that they're a little bit better than I thought they would be.
Yeah, they're still. I mean, and again, if you're going off of the standings,
You're still kind of on the outside looking in, yeah.
doing just adding these games, their standings. Is that they're sitting so, but again, I how they do that, I can't either record or if it's or what they're doing.
You're kind of cutting in and out a little bit there, Coach.
Yeah, that's frustrating about this. Hard to make heads and tails. Especially it's always next league here. Make heads and tails.
Oh yeah.
Let me see here. All right, is that better, Lone Wolf?
Yeah, that's better. There you go. Yep.
Yeah, I'm having issues with my headset, so I had to go regular here. What I was saying is that trying to make heads and tails of standings and things like that it's hard because the leagues didn't come out and say we're just adding games to the current standings or this or that, and that's really prevalent in the next league here, and that's the NHL.
Right.
I like the format they have, but at the same time, it is so hard to find out what's going on until you click just the right page.
Yes. Yeah. This whole round robin thing they got. Yeah.
So, you look at that and you have some pretty good matchups. There's no series is done yet.
Right.
So they're all going at least 4 games. And you even have some 12 seeds that are on the verge of winning and moving on. So,
yeah,
we talk about this, kind of ad nauseum, is that, these lower seeds just need a chance and they can get in.
Mm-hmm.
The Blackhawks are up 2-1 in their series, and they're one of the lowest seeded teams.
Right. The Montreal Canadiens are up 2-1 over the Pittsburgh Penguins. So.
Right. So you have some opportunities for these lower clubs to make a run. Now, obviously, will they make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals? Who knows? They may. But when I'm looking at it, it's really hard to say if there's any surprises right now, because the one thing about the NHL is you can have a 500 record, but you are sitting in last place in your division.
Right.
Because it's all about the points. It's not about your record. So that's why it's so hard to say whether a 12 seed winning is upsetting.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
their
It's
opponent.
yeah. It's not
So
really the same. It's not the same as other as a few of the other sports, or when you look at it, yeah, is it truly an upset? I mean, yes, obviously there are better teams, but it's not quite the same format. Yeah.
right. So I'm not sure if you have anything with the NHL. I mean, like I said, my two teams are doing very well, the Golden
Yep.
Knights and the Blackhawks. So I'm happy.
Yeah.
Um, but
No,
not
I think as this wears on, what I like to do is kind of talk about where it ends up and kind of what the playoff holds and things of that nature. I think right now I'm just glad for all those NHL fans that we have games and that you're able to get that. And I haven't really heard much about COVID issues with the NHL.
yeah.
So
I have not heard anything. Which again, if you don't hear anything from these hub teams, it gives credence to even the NFL possibly looking at, can we do a hub in the NFL? And, you could play a morning, afternoon, and an evening game at one stadium and basically have six teams at one stadium.
mhm.
You could do that.
You could, yeah, yep.
Will they? I doubt it. Um, but,
Yeah, I mean,
if it
all the news
worked,
for the NHL is talking about the games, expanding the playoffs or not, all these sorts of
right,
things that you want to talk about as a sport. They're not talking about other stuff. And yeah, I think you're right. That's kind of a testament to their format and being able to play these games and being in those hubs. So it seems like they were quiet about it. They didn't talk about it a lot,
right.
but they came up with this plan and they executed it. It's like not a lot of fanfare, but here's what they came up with and then what they did, and it seems like they had really thought this out and planned it out.
Well, right. It's like, when I actually read that NHL returning for I was like, what? I didn't even think they were having. I thought they'd cashed it in and just was done.
Yeah,
That's how quiet um, they were throughout this
right.
entire thing. Which I really, to be honest, I think that was a great move on their part.
Oh
Um,
yeah, definitely.
not making all the kind of infighting on how to do things public, which is what happened with baseball. Um, you know,
It was like airing your dirty laundry, basically, with
right,
baseball.
right. So moving on to obviously the league that everybody wants us to talk about and hear about, the NFL. Um, Obviously, training camps are underway. Um, Big news from our hometown team, the Green Bay Packers, that there will be no fans at Lambeau Field for the first month of the season.
Right.
Um, you know, does it shock me? No. Um, it doesn't shock me that there's not going to be fans. It does kind of shock me that the organizations made that determination, because organizations are all about money, um,
Yeah.
and I think it's a smart move because you
Right.
bet rather be safe than sorry. Um, but I know there's clubs out there that are gonna have fans in the stands. I can think of a couple owners that are greedy enough to do it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not gonna name the names. You probably can think of them who
Oh
I'm
yeah. I
thinking
think
about.
everybody can think of them. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but you even look at the Raiders. The Raiders are not having any fans at any home games this year, and that's a
Right.
brand new stadium. That a brand new stadium is going to be empty for a full season.
Yeah.
Um,
Isn't that
that's
crazy? I mean, to think
that,
about it, but it
that,
is.
that's
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
So, um, other than that, there's some player movement. A lot more players are opting out. C.J.
Yeah.
Mosley is one big one that's on the list. Um, what I want to really touch based on here to see what you think of this, is the rumors that are swirling around our hometown Packers
Mm-hmm.
about and I haven't seen anything come out of Lambeau Field about this, but supposedly they are one of the odds-on favorites to sign Antonio Brown.
Yes, I saw that, and I hope that this is not true. Now, I understand the talent that he's got and all of these things. And yes, I will draw a parallel between a guy like him and a guy like Andre Rison, who the Packers signed and used and then discarded after 1 year to help them win a Super Bowl back in '96.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with this guy is if you have him sitting and festering like a cancer in your locker room for too long, it becomes a problem. And Green Bay is not a place that is normally known for having big-time locker room personalities that cause problems. Yes, guys have egos there just like they do anywhere else, but being steady and winning and all those things help. I think he was winning in other places, and then he left. He went to the Raiders, and then he even went to the Patriots, and he didn't work out there. I mean, they've had their really fair share of people who have had, you have had murders, you'd have all sorts of people that have played for the Patriots. So, it's to me, it's not a good thing. I really hope that isn't the case. I know he would help our team win a Super Bowl if he were on the field, but I think the extracurricular issues are too much for a team like a stable organization like the Packers to take a chance on him.
So yeah, just playing some devil's advocate here.
Sure.
You look at their current stable of receivers, and would you be like if you basically were given this option, sign Antonio Brown, you're going to win a Super Bowl this year, but then your team's going to fall apart for the next 4 years. Would you take that bet? Or would you take that deal?
No, I wouldn't take that deal. No. And I know there are people out there who would say they would, but there are so many teams that have done that sort of thing where they win a Super Bowl and then they fall apart. But teams have such a hard time recovering from those types of things. I would not take that deal. No.
Then is there anybody else you think that Green Bay would be looking for, looking at as a wide receiver, on either trading for or any street free agents that are out there? Because, we're banking on a lot of nothing. On the edge.
And the free agent they brought in opted out for the season, so.
Right. I mean, so you're looking at, you have, you take away Devontae Adams, you have Al Lazard, who has 36 career catches, Valdez-Scanlon, 64 catches, Jake Kumerow, 20 catches, St. Brown, 21 catches, Darius Shepard, 1 catch. Then the CFL guy, who I think could be pretty good, no catches. And then you got a rookie. Right. And then you got a guy off of our practice squad.
It's not overall very promising from that standpoint. I get it.
So I get what you're saying, but I guess here's the way I look at this. He has to sit for 8 games, right? So there's no rush to sign him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't have to bring him in probably for the first quarter of the season. Probably around week 5 or 6 is when you'd want him in there to give him a couple weeks to, build some chemistry with, Rodgers and whatnot.
Right.
If my thought process is to try to get one more Super Bowl with Rodgers before Jordan Love takes over, why wouldn't I? Because if it falls apart, he's done it in 8-9 games. It's not like we're gonna sign him for a long-term contract,
Well,
and he's
no, of
probably not.
course not.
So unless there's another option out there that becomes available through, you know,
Yeah.
the veteran cuts and things like that,
Josh Gordon. I mean,
eh, who would you want more, Josh Gordon or Antonio Brown?
Yeah. So would
I,
I. If you had to
you
choose
know,
between the two, I agree. Because
you
Antonio
know,
Brown is better, and he doesn't have a history of, um, you know,
and now
unfettered substance abuse.
Now, here's the other thing you have to remember too. If you look at a lot of Antonio Brown's issues, is when he's kind of showing off for fans, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's not going to be an issue. There's nobody in the stands.
Yeah. There's. Yeah. Yeah.
All you can do is go and play football.
Right.
So,
I,
I
I'm still. We can disagree on this, coach, but I don't think it would be a good thing. I still don't. I realize that I was the one who drew the Ryzen parallel, and yes, maybe that would work for a season, but I still don't really want him in my team's uniform.
Man, I mean,
Maybe
it
something
kind of worked out good. Rising kind of worked out good for us, though. Lone Wolf.
he did. I agree. I agree. I know. I said it, and then I was like, I'm making the case against my own opinion by saying that, but
So,
and I looked at the available free agents outside of the ones we just mentioned, and there isn't a lot out there wide receiver wise that you say, oh my god, that nobody really jumps off the page, which doesn't surprise me. But you've got like a Demaryius Thomas that's a free agent. He's 32 years old and he's been with a couple of teams now. But I mean, he's not a guy who would necessarily make a splash. But maybe he would fit in with the system for the Packers,
well,
and you'd probably get him for a pretty cheap amount too.
the thing here's the thing with our current receivers. I think our current receivers fit our system,
Sure,
but we don't have anybody to take the top off of a defense.
sure,
That's what Antonio Brown does. Run, run down the field.
yeah,
Take one or two defenders with you. If he's serious about continuing to play football, he's going to have to eat his pride wherever he plays this year and put the winning over himself. If he doesn't, he will never see the field again. That's just the way it is. But yeah, and as we go here, it's really hard too for teams to make decisions right now because you don't have preseason games. So
right,
you can't evaluate guys in a game situation and then say, hey, we want to sign this guy or trade for this guy, and go out and get him, things like that. So it puts teams in a bind, and I think that's kind of why you don't see the Packers making any moves right now, is because I really don't think they know what to do, to be honest.
yeah.
So I guess we'll see here as we go, but there are a couple of things that I read that they said the Packers aren't going to make the playoffs, which I don't think that's the case. I think they're
I don't
still.
see that at all. Yeah.
I think they're still the best team in that division.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see here as the training camp goes on the rest of this month. I'm not sure when the first cut down is. I know they had to get down to 80 this week. So I'm assuming another week or so they're going to have to make their first cut downs, and maybe some receivers become available then.
And
you know,
I was gonna ask too though, and this is something I was just looking. I was trying to find this, and I couldn't find it. And maybe you know. So a player says they're gonna opt out due to coronavirus concerns for the season. They get paid a certain amount. I was reading some of
mhm.
those things, but once you say, okay, I want to opt out, can you opt back in at a certain point, or are you just done for the season because you opted out?
It's
If
their
you're legitimately healthy, do you just opt out for the whole season? That's it.
no. There's the deadline. Once that deadline passes,
Yeah.
um, they are done, from what I understand, for the season.
Okay.
They can't change their mind. You can't.
Okay.
So if the next day all of a sudden you'd go, oh, I want to opt out. No, the deadline's passed. You
Right.
can't
What
opt
where do
out,
you
and all
so if
that
you
really
opt
does,
yeah.
and all that does is guarantee you earning. You make so much money
Right.
by opting out. Um, so you could opt out after the deadline, but you're just not going to get paid.
Well, what I
Yeah.
meant by that is let's just say you decide you want to opt out, you're concerned about the coronavirus, and then, preseason ends because the deadline's coming up here, I think, pretty soon. I have to look. Um, but once you do that, let's say you opt out, and then the preseason ends, and the regular season's going to start, and maybe things with the coronavirus are different at that point. Probably not, but maybe they are. And you say, "Man, I think I should play." You don't have that option. You're just done for the season once you make that choice. That was what I was
Right.
getting at.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. You'd be done. So,
Okay. All right.
um,
And that's what I thought, but I didn't know if there was anything that was different other than that. So I guess my point there was that knowing that, but that's a huge thing. And I think if there are certain high profile players, as there have been, that have opted out, um, that can change how things play out over the course of the season and then into the playoffs, big time.
exactly. Um, it's definitely going to have an impact. I mean, obviously, um, the Patriots are getting hit, and other teams are starting to get hit more and more by these opt outs, um, things like that. So we'll definitely see how this all shakes out. It's gonna be a very interesting season with or without fans in the stands. I'm not even worried about that. I'm just looking at
Yeah.
the teams themselves because there are some good players that are not playing this year.
Right.
Um,
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
so other than that, not too much, from training camps
Right.
um, that I could see. Um, you know, the other thing I want to talk about, and this isn't just I'm bringing this up because it's an NFL article, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've watched any NBA or baseball yet. Um, with the virtual digital fans.
Yeah.
Um,
I have seen that. Yeah.
the NFL is eyeing to do something similar.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, and I
and
apologize. It looks like the deadline with the opt out deadline was today.
okay,
So, my question is probably moot, but not totally. I just
not
saw that
totally.
was the
Yeah,
case. It was
somebody.
today.
It'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see if somebody tries to change their mind.
Right.
Um, you know, whether to opt out or not after the deadline. Um, I watched. I haven't watched full games because I'm kind of on a strike of watching things live. And I'm not going to go into why. Um,
Yeah. Okay.
but watching the highlights and stuff. I'm sorry, that is the freakiest thing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just can't wrap my head around it. I'd rather see empty seats. Um,
I would too. Yeah.
it's just weird.
I was watching a hockey game the other day, and there was nobody in the stands, and it took me a second. I blinked. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, there's no fans. But after that, it was like it was fine. It was totally fine for me. but yeah, having the virtual fans, I was kind of like, it was a weird blend of watching. It's like, am I watching Madden right now, or am I watching an actual game? It
Well,
felt odd.
to me, it felt. I thought I was on a Zoom call.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, seriously, it looks like they just took a bunch of Zoom
yeah,
streams and put them on the screen. I was like, what the heck is this?
yeah.
People looking all different directions, and I don't know. Here's the thing, Lone Wolf. People are probably paying money to do this.
I know. Yeah,
It's just amazing.
yeah.
But
It is to me. I don't even know that it's necessary. Like, why do you need to add fake fans for the people who are watching? Like, I'm watching because I want to see the sport. I've been dying to watch sports, and I'm just saying, just as a sports fan in general, I've been dying to watch sports. So I want to see the sports. I don't want to. I'm not watching it to see that there's virtual fans in the stands. I mean, I want to see the sport. Just focus on that. That's what I
right,
want to see.
and the thing is this: when during a game, you rarely see the stands. You
Right.
rarely see the stands. So I think it's just a way to make some money for the leagues.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was weird. It was weird. I'm sorry. If you're one of those people that think that's a cool thing, great. That was just weird to me.
Yeah.
I was weird
We're not
about that.
fans of that.
So, well, I think it's that time of the show.
Yep. Yep.
Our top 5 lists, and to be honest, I struggled with this. So
I did a little bit too. Yeah.
it's very hard because it's like, holy cow, there's so many different things, and it's like,
Yep.
do I go with something totally that cannot happen, or do I do something that it actually could happen? So
Right.
this week's top 5s, we're going to go through our top 5 trades we would like to see NFL teams make.
Right.
Good, better, and different. It's just something that we think that we would like to see happen. I'm gonna let you start out this week because I started out
Sure.
last week, and so.
And honestly, I kind of I did kind of go with the like to see, but I also kind of did it a little bit more like, what if this team actually did this and it may never happen? So I did do a little bit of that in one of mine for sure, but some of them, I think are very plausible in terms of a team wanting to do something or doing it. So I put that caveat out there because one of these is for my dad, who has been saying something for a long time. It'll never happen, but I did it because I'm like, you know what? What if this actually took place? What would happen in the team that was losing the player and in the team that was gaining the player? So, that being the case, I that's not my number 5, but we'll get to that. All that build up. My first one is kind of a boring one, and I thought with needing to protect the quarterback, and this team has had some opt-outs and that's at this position. Not that necessarily plays into it, but it could. And that was to trade Brandon Sheriff from the Washington football team to the Cleveland Browns because I think they need some more offensive line support. So that was my number 5.
All right. Well, my number 5, it will not happen, but I think in the long run, it would be good, at least for the team losing the player. Not initially. Not initially. It'd be a couple bumpy years. But I think in the long run, it would be beneficial. It would open up cap space. The way that their philosophy is changed since they got a new coach. They'd be able to keep their players, their core players, more freely than they can right now because of how much this player costs and that is, and the team receiving this guy
Mm-hmm.
has been looking for a franchise quarterback since the 1980s.
Okay, there's a few of
So
those.
you would get a franchise quarterback for at least, I'd think, 4 to 5 years. Probably make you the best team in your division. Maybe not win a Super Bowl while this player's there, but it would be the Green Bay Packers trading Aaron Rodgers to the Cleveland Browns. Here's the thing.
This is good. This is good. Okay, okay.
You have Jordan Love, right?
Yep.
And yeah, I'm never a proponent of starting a rookie,
Right.
but you know what? You are a run heavy first team now. You should be able to at least still compete. You could get a lot of capital from the Browns or some quality players in return. They have depth on their defensive line. You're gonna have at least this year some high draft picks because I don't think they'd go in and light the world on fire. But let's be honest: if Aaron Rodgers went to Cleveland, they would be the best team in the NFC North or AFC North, even over Baltimore.
You think so?
I still like Aaron Rodgers as a true quarterback over Lamar Jackson.
Sure, sure.
And with the other pieces they have there, they're missing a quarterback.
They really are. I mean, I know people like I texted you earlier in the week about, how people were ranking the quarterback rooms for each team, and Cleveland was 12th on this person's list, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I mean, we both do not think Baker Mayfield is that good. And some people seem to think that he's so wonderful, but he's not. I'm sorry, he's not. And yes, that would be a vast improvement at quarterback.
Yeah. So, like I said, not going to happen, but it would open up. And Cleveland wasn't my first choice where to send Rodgers, but it makes the most sense. You might even be able to get, Baker Mayfield from them to be a bridge quarterback between, Rodgers and Love, for a year or two. And then,
Yeah.
But again, it won't happen. So if you're tuning in right now, you're like, "What?" No, it's not going to happen. These are our fantasy drafts or trades that we would like to see teams do in the NFL. So that was my number.
I will tell you, Coach. With that, you would have made Don Cruz very happy because he's been talking about it for so long. He said the same thing about Brett Favre. And people were like, "Oh, that's crazy." And then, Favre had his shenanigans at the end of his career. And I don't, I mean, Rodgers has made a few comments recently as to whether there's any teeth to anything like that. If he would end his career somewhere else and all this kind of stuff. Who knows? But yeah, he's probably not going to get traded. But if you did trade him, I mean, think about the draft capital you would get from a guy like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. That actually segues nicely into my number 4, which we've known each other for too long because you try to do this kind of stuff and then this kind of stuff happens. So I did not say that Aaron Rodgers would get traded to the Cleveland Browns. However, my number 4 is Aaron Rodgers going to a team that I think is right on the cusp. What they would have to give up in return necessarily, I don't know, but it would be an intriguing prospect just to see him with a team that has the caliber of players around him, more on the offensive side than they had last year, and defensively they are one of the best in the league, and that is the Buffalo Bills.
Ooh.
So I thought putting Rodgers there.
Well, and that's intriguing because you got, Josh Allen and now Fromm.
Right.
So you have some young quarterbacks there. You'd probably have to give at least one of them up to get Rodgers plus draft
Right.
picks.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Yeah. But if
yeah.
you could do that and you could keep you say the core of your team intact, I think that actually, it won't happen. But if it did, it would make some sense for a team like Buffalo, who defensively they're really solid. And if you put a guy like him under center, I think you're right there in the AFC with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely would be the hands-on favorite in your division.
Sure.
So
I think they'd be one of the top two or three teams in the AFC, no problem.
so yeah, that is intriguing, and here we go. So I kind of segued you into your number 4 there in Rodgers from my number 5 there in Rodgers. You segued into my number 4.
Okay, all right.
I'm not sure what the Saints would need to. This is good. Looking towards the future in New Orleans, since Drew Brees is going to be gone, and I'm not sure. I don't. You might not have to give up much for him. You might have to give up a little. I would
Sure.
like to see, and this is very plausible. I would like to see the New Orleans Saints trade for Jake Fromm from the Buffalo
Oh,
Bills.
yeah, sure. Yep.
Um, he, Fromm I believe is the quarterback steal of the draft.
Right.
Um, he, I was hoping the Packers would wait, take him in the second or third round.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, it would give the Saints 1 year to get him ready under Drew Brees. And the Bills are sitting on basically a lottery ticket with him
Yeah.
because they're going to be able to either trade. They're going to be able to trade one of those two guys for some nice draft capital to
Yeah, I mean,
build
depending on how
continue to
this
build their
works out, I
team.
mean, if Allen continues to develop and he's really good, well, then you've got Fromm, and as long as he doesn't disappoint in, um, whatever playing time that he ends up getting, but then you have a possibility there. Or if Allen's kind of not working out, but is not bad, and Fromm comes on, well, then you play Fromm and you get rid of Allen. So yeah, they've got a
Exactly.
good situation there. Yeah.
Exactly. So that is my number 4.
Well, so going into number 3, I'm actually talking about one of the same teams that you just talked about. So we're actually doing this nicely and bridging between. We didn't talk about these beforehand, but it's just kind of working out that way. Um, Mine also involves the Saints, and it's kind of more of a win now. So it's one of those. Do they really need to? Would they need another weapon on offense? Probably not. But it's a guy who kind of is at the tail end of his career. Would they really need to do this? Probably not. But to see a 1-2 receiver duo like this, I would like it. And I think that, it'd be the last hurrah for him and Drew Brees if they were to do that. And that is the Cincinnati Bengals trading AJ Green to the New Orleans Saints, or the New Orleans Saints taking AJ Green from the Cincinnati Bengals, and creating one of the best wide receiver duos in the entire league by doing that. I just feel like it's one of those, it's a dream scenario for Drew Brees and is what we feel would be his last season. And if they couldn't do it with that kind of offensive firepower, then I don't know if they can at all. So,
Right. Yeah, that definitely. Holy cow! That would be quite the offense there. Um, but yeah, that definitely would be. Ooh, that'd be scary. That'd be
yeah,
going back to those couple years when they won their Super Bowl.
right.
Um, that caliber talent. Well, our run with segueing teams ends there
Sure.
because my number 3 involves a running back and a very good running back. and a team that had lost a very good running back because they just mismanaged the whole affair.
Mm-hmm.
But this team needs to get back to what they used to do, which is run the ball, play good defense, run the ball, and it made them dominant in their division for years. And that is the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have gotten so far away from what they're known for,
Yeah.
and what their history calls for. I would like to see them go and get a guy that would gladly leave his current situation because they are not going to be good. He gets pounded on relentlessly. You're not going to be much better. And that is to go get Saquon Barkley from the New York Giants. He is being wasted in New York. Pittsburgh always has a solid offensive line, and you put him back there with Ben Roethlisberger, Juju Smith-Schuster, and the Steelers could be right there in that division and be a force in the AFC playoffs. Will it happen? Probably not, but that's what I would love to see. I would love to see Barkley in an offense that's run with a good offensive line, because New York's just not very good.
Yeah, and I mean, I like that one because we've talked about Saquon Barkley and being in New York, and they've tried to build something, but it's not there. And if you're Barkley, do you look at it, if you could end up in a different situation and be on a better squad and be utilized. I'm not saying that he is not being utilized a lot in New York, but where he's not getting beat up to the same level. We have a more balanced offense. I love that move. I think that's great. And would it happen? Probably not, but I think it's a great move. I think it'd be awesome to see Pittsburgh have that kind of rushing attack again, for sure.
Yeah, I think you'd put Pittsburgh right back up there if you put somebody like that, because you look out when Le'Veon Bell was actually Le'Veon Bell,
Right.
and they had that rushing attack, and then before that it was Jerome Bettis. I mean, they just have such a great history of running the football, and they've gotten away from that the last couple of years, and they haven't been very good.
Right.
So,
yep. So my next one here, this is the number 2, I believe. We're getting close to the top. It's a player that I really like, and I think he was playing for a team that was a contender. Went to a team that is up and coming now, but is not really a contender per se in terms of winning the Super Bowl. Maybe a dark horse or an outside shot at the playoffs kind of team. But I would like to see this player play for a team that that actually has more of a legitimate shot, because I think he's a monster. He was my defensive player of the year. And I think this team that I have him going to could definitely use him. I think it's something that showed up in the postseason. And that would be Chandler Jones from the Arizona Cardinals going to the Tennessee Titans.
ooh.
I think that if you had him, I mean, that defense all of a sudden gets a 19-sack player, and already a team that has showed a lot of promise in terms of being a legitimate team in the postseason in the AFC. I thought it would be a good move for somebody like him to end up in that situation, and playing for a guy who comes from the same type of system that he used to be in, same mentality anyway, in New England. So
Right, yeah, that definitely would improve the Titans quite a bit. The defense side of the ball, even though they are solid on defense, but
right.
pass rush is where they lacked. If they had had a pass rush against Kansas City, Don't know if they would have won the game, but it probably would have been closer than it was.
Yeah, I think it would make a difference. I mean, Mahomes is Mahomes, but if you get somebody on him constantly, it definitely makes a difference. Everybody gets disrupted, even the best quarterbacks. So
Right. All right, so my number 2. This would be unbelievable if this would really happen, Lone Wolf. I'll tell you that. This player, loyal to the team. He's a great community guy. I just don't think he has a quarterback right now that can get their team to the promised land. And I don't think that's going to change because they just gave this quarterback a contract extension.
Okay.
Him leaving this team and going to the new team would definitely fill a gap on this team's offense and probably make them go from a playoff caliber team to a team that they would say is probably one of the favorites in their conference to go to the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay.
And that is Adam Thielen to the Green Bay Packers. It will never happen. It will never happen. Because Minnesota won't trade him, and B won't trade him to Green Bay. But he is such a dynamic receiver, and unfortunately, he has to have the ball thrown to him from Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins just, I don't think, can ever lead a team to a Super Bowl championship.
Right.
So you put him now in the Green Bay offense along, with what we have in Aaron Rodgers.
Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers and
Jones.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Now that's an offense to be afraid of because Thielen can stretch the field, but he'll still go over the middle and make the hard catches.
Yeah.
So he kind of reminds me of Jordy Nelson in his prime. He's that type of receiver. Yeah. So that is my number 2 overall trade I'd love to see.
I like this. This is good. Yeah, we had some really good ones, and none of them are the same. So this is working out well. My number 1 is one where I think it would actually make a lot of. It won't happen because the player is too valued currently where he is, and I don't think this would happen. Although this team has been known to let players leave when they're seemingly in their prime, and then they bounce back and things of that nature. But I don't see it happening. I think this player will be there next year. It's not any issues like that. They're under contract, what have you. But it would be cool to see it though too, and it fits a need for the team that this player is going to. My number 1 is Stephen Gilmore, cornerback from the New England Patriots, going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Ooh.
Where he would not only be reunited with Tom Brady, whether he would want to be or not, I don't know, but they have very young corners who came on last year. They're good and they're improving, but you put a veteran presence like him out there and let those guys have that model to watch, that defense could be a heck of a lot better on the back end if having a guy like an all-pro like him there. And, all of a sudden the Buccaneers, their stock rises that much more, I think.
Right. Yeah, that definitely is a and that's a trade that could possibly happen. That's
what I was saying. Belichick's been known to do that kind of stuff,
right? And if he sees the season going south, and he can get some draft picks, he's not afraid to pull the trigger,
right?
So, I like that one. That's probably one of our more probable trades that we've talked about,
right?
That could actually happen. So, my number 1. And I'm surprised you didn't think this because I've been preaching this since we started this show.
Okay.
This player's career has been totally wasted and it will continue to be wasted until he's out of his current situation. He has some of the best stats for a quarterback in the league.
Matthew Stafford.
Matthew Stafford. Now, the question
I
is,
knew you just said that. And I'm like, okay, I think it's Stafford. Once you said quarterback, I'm like, it's Stafford.
the question is, what team am I sending him to?
Okay.
So this
But
team,
it can't. It has to be a good team because you wouldn't send him to Jacksonville
correct.
to be squandered completely.
This team, in my opinion, is on the cusp of being a very good football team that could maybe in a year or two compete and push the Kansas City Chiefs and dethrone them in the division.
Sure. Yes, it's your team, the Oakland
It
Raiders.
is
Sorry,
my
the Las
Las
Vegas
Vegas
Raiders.
Raiders. Get Matthew Stafford, get rid of Carr, who is not a franchise quarterback. You would take one of the most prolific passers in the league and put him with that talent that the Raiders have in their offense currently,
that they have on offense. Yeah.
with a mad scientist as a head coach. I'm telling you, that would be unbelievable to see.
Yeah.
And Stafford is such a, he's a good guy off the field. And you just feel for him every year when you watch highlights, him just getting his head pounded into the turf because the Lions are so pitiful.
Yeah.
That it's kind of a redemption thing that he gets to go somewhere, start fresh, and actually compete and have an opportunity to win a championship. Because to be honest, 2 years, that's what the Chiefs have. And in 2 years, all these contracts they're giving people right now are coming to roost. And in 2 years, you're going to be the Los Angeles Rams.
Right.
You're going to lose people. And Andy Reid is going to retire, walk out the door, and say, "See you later."
Yeah, right. And then you're stuck. Yeah.
So, I would love to see a trade, and I think it can happen. John Gruden is not afraid to pull a trigger like that. If he would get an inkling that the Lions would part with him, Gruden is not a Carr fan. He is not.
No.
When he took the job, everybody thought he was going to cut Carr right away.
Yeah. Well, and let's not forget too, they brought in Marcus Mariota, and you can say whatever you want about Marcus Mariota, but he's a high draft pick who didn't work out in Tennessee. Maybe there's some designs on getting him to resurrect his career Tannehill style in another spot.
Right.
I don't know, but he's not a Mark Sanchez. Okay, he walks in and he might actually be viable to be a starter.
Right, and so Gruden's always looking for a quarterback, and I
couldn't steal your thunder on that one, Coach. You've been talking about him getting out of there for a long time. I like the move because I feel for him too. All the guy does is put up stats. And yes, he's been injured, but there are some seasons where he's been injured because he just gets pummeled, completely and totally pummeled.
Yeah,
because the team is so bad in those years.
His injuries are not because he's fragile.
Right.
I mean, every year he's hurt, he's getting sacked and hit and just driven into the ground. And it's usually, separated shoulder or rib or it's because his offensive line's horrible.
Right. Yes.
And the Lions are just like, oh well, what do you want us to do about it? How about get some offensive linemen for the guy?
Right.
I mean, I root for the Packers, but holy cow!
I just from a GM
How can
football
you be so
standpoint,
bad?
you know? Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you've made the playoffs what, one time since you went 0-16? One time?
Yeah, I think they were 10-6 one year, played the Saints in the first round and lost, and I think that's about it.
Yeah. So you have probably one of the best statistical quarterbacks in our lifetime,
Yeah.
and he's been in one playoff game.
And honestly, he could be better statistically
Yeah.
somewhere else. I mean, because he has played with some really horrible offenses and running backs, wide receivers. Yes, he had Calvin Johnson for quite a large portion of his career. So I'm not taking that away. And Calvin Johnson is amazing, obviously. But you look at the rest of the people that they had over the years at those positions, other than Calvin Johnson, and he hasn't had a whole lot. And I'm sorry, but when you only have one receiver, Calvin Johnson is still a human being. He can't do everything on offense,
Well, right.
So it's
They
just
haven't
yeah, as
they
a franchise, ugh.
they have not had a top tier running back. They basically didn't force him, but made
Yeah,
Calvin Johnson want to quit the game of football because they
right,
were that horribly ran. That's why he left. It wasn't that he wanted to stop. Because even a year later, there was rumors that he wanted to come back, but he didn't want to come
right,
back with the Lions.
right.
That organization is so poorly ran that it's unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So no, I think it's I'd say not as plausible of a trade as it should be.
right.
I mean, I think it's one of those to me that if the Lions decided to do that, yes, there would be an uproar about it, but it would make sense from the standpoint of you give that guy something he needs. You probably get a decent amount of draft picks for him. I mean, I would think so, and maybe there's a
Yeah,
player exchange, but he's worth he's
I
worth it
mean,
for you as a franchise.
if you look at Las Vegas, you probably could get Derek Carr
Yeah,
and maybe a second and a fourth round draft pick.
sure. Yep.
Why wouldn't you take that? Your team stinks
Yeah.
anyways.
Right. You need to build in the draft, and you get a guy who Derek Carr is at least serviceable at quarterback, and
Right.
then you draft somebody who can be your quarterback, and you have a couple of other draft picks to flesh out the rest of your team, which you need to do anyway because it's not deep.
Exactly.
So
So
yeah,
that's my number one overall trade I'd love to see. A, it gives a really good player an opportunity to win, and B,
hmm
it helps my second hometown team.
that's right. Yeah. Well, and I didn't have anybody for my adopted team in the Dolphins, but they made so many trades and picked up so many free agents. I really couldn't say anything about them this time, or any sort of dream maneuvers for them. So
Well, they were one of the teams I was thinking about shipping Aaron Rodgers to,
sure, I thought about quarterback going there, but I just
but
considered it highly unlikely.
yeah,
Not that
I thought,
not that Aaron Rodgers going anywhere is likely, but I mean, I just thought that wasn't the first thought in my mind in terms of
yeah.
that. So yeah.
All right, so that is it for our top five this week. Lone Wolf, anything else before we close down for the evening?
Well, I was just gonna say the only other thing that I was gonna mention when we do these top fives, I think we're gonna do the same thing in some of the other major sports. So look for that next week. We'll do the same thing, possible trades or maybe even impossible trades, depending how you look at it.
Right.
But I'm excited about that because I think that definitely gives some emphasis on the sports aspect of it, and I'm glad that we've got sports back to talk about and to watch.
Absolutely. It has been way too long since we've actually been able to look at the scoreboard and be like, oh, holy cow, there's the NBA, there's Major League Baseball, there's golf, there's the NHL, we have NFL training camps. It's like, holy
Right.
cow. So it is quite a refresher. So Want to once again thank everybody for listening to our show and supporting us. Again, all our episodes are up on YouTube at our YouTube channel, Smack Talk. And then obviously here on Podbean, those are the best two places to get us. If you have any questions or would like to be part of the show, send us an email, which is in our bio. And with that, I want to say be smart, be safe, and have a good night.
Same for me. Have a good night.